Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. The case I'm going to look into today is one that's actually been really infuriating me. It is the Southport Stabbings. And I don't know, I just keep seeing all of this stuff online and with the sentencing and everything. And I'm sure, like me, a lot of people don't fully know, like, the ins and outs of it. So I thought I'd put together this case and I wanted to speak my mind on it because it's just devastating. And yeah, I'd like to know everyone else's opinion on it because there's a lot of opinions flying around right now. Let's jump in. So the person in question with regards to this case is Axel Cabana. He was born in Wales, but his parents actually immigrated there from Rwanda, and apparently they had some connection to the Rwandan genocide, but obviously I don't know anything about that. No information can be found on it, and we're talking about Axel here, not his parents. But they did come over seeking asylum. So Axel was born on the 7th of August in 2007. His father and mother, I think, actually, like I said, moved over to get asylum in 2002, I think. In 2013, the family, which he also had an older brother, so it consisted of Axel, his mother, father, and an older brother. They all moved to Banks, which is not far from Southport. Okay. Cat's fear. And Axel's behaviour, sort of, as a teenager, did get worse, and he was known by various authorities. He would spend a lot of time online and searching up terrible things. When the police actually recovered his laptop, they found some of these despicable things, which were images related to wars, national conflicts that are going on currently, which, you know, like Ukraine, Gaza, and would often look up a lot of violent conflicts. He had cartoons depicting some horrific violence. Just had a really bad fascination with just awful, disturbing things. He apparently was interested in ethnic cleansing, and according to, I believe that sources come from school, so he used to speak about it at school, about how, like, ethnic cleansing is a good thing, and things along those lines. And I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe he directed it towards white people. He attacked somebody in school and apparently broke this person's arm. He was then escorted out of class and expelled. At some point, he was caught with having a knife many times. At some point, he tried to go back to the school. Oh no, he did go back to the school, sorry, and he went with a hockey stick. And he was gonna confront excuse me, and attack somebody, another pupil who he said had bullied him. So basically the police had been involved with him before. Apparently, the police were, according to neighbours, police were called in the run-up to this attack numerous times. So he was known to the police. His parents were definitely having issues with him. He was known to a service called Prevent, which is supposed to prevent things like this happening, like extremism things, I think, and radicalized things. Yeah, he was known by a lot of things. Also, apparently, he rang up Childline and said, what should he do if he wanted to kill someone or stab someone? Clearly a very disturbed guy. In one of his IT classes, they actually found him researching school shootings. And he'd done that a lot, like researching school shootings. So if this didn't occur, that's probably how it would have gone. Which is just absolutely horrific and frightening. Can you imagine being sat in an IT lesson, being the teacher just walking on past and looking at his PC and seeing that he was looking up school shootings? That is just terrifying beyond belief. He also, in his room, when they searched it, they found weapons. They found a bow and arrow and knives hidden under his bed. Like I said, he'd already been caught with knives and stuff previously. He also had an Al-Qaeda handbook, which showed exactly how to sort of kill people with certain weapons, the best and most efficient way of carrying out the deed, and where to go for, which was obviously the head and neck area. And, you know, that in itself, owning something like that, can give you jail time anyway. And there it was on his PC. Or whatever. Printed out, I don't know where it was. But it was somewhere in his room. I would absolutely love to know what happened when the police came around all those times. Like, what actually happened? Why did they come out? And could this have been prevented? What actually would occur? That awful instance last year. It fully is so devastating what happened. Oh, as well, and apparently... Sorry, still ill after a month before Christmas. It's annoying. But apparently, he tried to do... It seems like he tried to do this a week earlier. So he booked a taxi in a fake name of Simon, and his dad comes running out, right? And stops him. And he tries to convince the taxi man to not take his son and not take the fur, which eventually his son got out of the car and went back inside the house and didn't actually go. But it said that it wasn't thought now to be a coincidence that this was like the last day of school, and that lots of school leavers would be leaving at that point. And so it's thought that that's what he was trying to do. And the really heartbreaking thing about this is, if his father knew that his son was going out with a nefarious intention, which, why would he stop him if he didn't? Then this was always going to happen, which is really heartbreaking. And I'm not necessarily pinning any blame on the family, because I don't know how they lived, how they raised their child, whether they were scared of him, whether they knew about him, whatever. But people have said that they must have done yada yada yada. Like I said, apparently they even called the police on him themselves. I don't know what kind of situation they were in, but it's just so devastating to then know that your son has then gone out and done something like this. So just quickly going back to the anti-extremism government thing, Prevent. He was actually under them from 2019 to 2021. I don't know what happened in between, because clearly it didn't work. Like, what does Prevent even do? Because they haven't managed to stop him from doing this horrific thing. And we will get into the details of that. By February of 2023, he was not responding to sort of any mental health workers that were there. He wouldn't really leave the house. Like I said, he spent a lot of time online as well. And then we get to the 22nd of July 2024, which was when he attempted to leave the first time in the taxi and head to his former school. You know, like I said, his dad did stop it. Then the 29th of July 2024, he books a taxi under the fake name, again, using the name Simon. And he books it to take him to Hart Street in Southport. Now, he was seen on some footage. He's wearing a green hooded top with the hood up, and he's got a surgical mask on. And the driver, when he gets to his destination, asks him if he wants to pay by card or cash. He doesn't respond. He again asks the same question, and Axel simply gets out of the car, walks off, and heads towards the building where he was going to do his horrific attack. They do have a slight conversation. He's asking where it is, and he says something like, yeah, it's down there, it's next to the spray shop. And he was like, the spray shop, really? So then he's like, yeah. So anyway, that's when he asked for payment, and Axel just gets out. The driver did follow him, asking for payment again, but he was just simply ignored. This was just before midday, and some other footage catches him outside of the Hart space. He attempts to sort of linger around a door, but it's locked and he can't get in, and it's not the correct door anyway. So then he realizes which the correct door is, as to where he wanted to go, and then he goes up there and he climbs the stairs and then he vanishes from sight, and literally seconds later, screaming is heard from everywhere. In under 15 minutes, he has carried out a vicious, vile attack. So inside was a Taylor Swift themed dance class studio thing happening, right? And it was full of children. There was, I believe, about 28 children and a couple of instructors in there, yoga instructor and a dance instructor. And at that time, they were sat happily enjoying their life, innocently making bracelets. And then in comes Axel. Now, he had planned this attack. It was all premeditated. It was all planned. I believe he saw an advertisement for the dance studio in the day and time, and that was then his target. And he knew most likely that it would primarily be filled with women because it's a dance class and it's for children. So, more than likely, it would be a female instructor. I'm not saying they couldn't have been a male, but more than likely, they are female. If any parents had stayed behind, normally, like, you know, well, there wouldn't have been any parents there, I don't think. But, you know, it's just assumed that generally it would have been a woman's thing. And therefore, he would not have really been able to have been challenged. Like, if there was men there, maybe he wouldn't have done it. And it's believed that's why he picked it, really. And let me tell you as well, when this happened, Axel was 17. I believe he was 9 days away from his 18th birthday. So yeah, he goes in and he just starts wading through people and stabbing as he's going. Now, originally one of the teachers said that she didn't really realise what was going on at first because she just sees this guy like sort of pushing through children. And then he goes up to the like yoga, one of the instructors, I believe she was called Leanne, and he stabs her, and he stabs her in the back, and she said that she actually felt the knife stab her in the back. I think she ended up with 5 stab wounds in the end, but once that occurred, she just screamed for the children, like, run away, I believe is what she said. And this is when the other lady doing the class realised what was going on, was when she got stabbed. And he was aiming to do the most damage that he could throughout this entire thing. And he did. Like, he did some awful things. So when this other lady, I'm not sure of her name, my apologies, actually realised what was fully going on, she starts ushering the children towards the exit and trying to pull sort of Leanne out of the way, because of course she's been stabbed. Some of the children are rushing out and trying to get out, and I believe she sees one of the children go upstairs, which is where the toilets are, so she follows this child upstairs, goes in the bathroom and locks the door and holds her foot up against it and tells the child to be quiet because she is just so terrified that he's going to come in there, and she just wants to protect this child that sort of strayed off from the group. So that was that. But then, as she hears the screams and the cries of help from the other children, she realises that not everyone was able to get out. And she has to then sit there in that cubicle and make the decision as to whether she's going to try and go down and see what's what, or stay with the child that she's in with and protect that child. And that is what she does. And I can't even imagine listening to that. You know? Just awful. And what I do know as well is, like I said, he's stabbing people left, right and centre. There is some CCTV footage of, I guess, the entrance. I don't know properly. But apparently a child started running out and he grabs her, I think it's a her, I don't know, pulls the child back in, either way, doesn't really matter, and stabs that child. And that child then collapses at the door a bit later on in the footage. So this child was almost out, and then he dragged her back in. He attacked, I believe, so he ended up killing 3 children, and he injured 10 more. 8 of those were children, and 2 were adults. I've read lots of victim impact statements and of those around him. A gentleman who lived close said that he heard screaming. He thought it was nothing at first. Then he realised that because it carried on, it was definitely something. So he opens the door and there's a girl running towards him covered in blood, saying that she's been stabbed and that she thinks she's going to die. He cuddles her and says, "You're not," and ushers her as well as these other children. So she was so brave because she's sort of leading these children to safety. And he ushers them inside. I believe this girl then collapsed. And I think she did survive, thank goodness. But I think he said I think already armed himself with a hammer. And he starts going out to see what he can do. He went inside along with somebody else. And he said that something about the locked toilet door, and he didn't know whether that was a victim or whether that was another perpetrator. One man ran in as the police got there and just grabbed a child and ran out, but then came out absolutely screaming and crying his eyes out because the child that he had was dead. I mean, this is like something out of a horror movie, and even horror movies wouldn't do something like this most of the time. Like children, I just can't even imagine. He has ruined so many lives, and not just the children, the innocent children whose lives he took in a disgusting, despicable manner. Just so many more people as well on the outside, the families. Just honestly, I hate him with a passion, and I really do hope that if there is a hell out there, that he goes straight down there and that he burns in hell for eternity, because he's a fucking disgusting. I won't even like to call him a human being, to be honest. There's a woman who was outside to pick up a child and ended up ushering loads of children in a car, one of which she didn't realise at the time had actually been stabbed in the chest and sadly would later die. And like I said, this attack, it just took 15 minutes. He had murdered 3 children. Elsie Stancombe, who had 85 wounds. Like I said, he was just trying to do as much damage as possible. And sadly, she was pronounced dead at the scene because, I mean, she didn't stand a chance. 85 wounds. 85! To a little girl. And Elsie was 7 years old. Then you've got BB King. She was 6 years old, and she suffered more than 122 stab wounds. Can you imagine that on a 6-year-old body? Well, nobody wants to imagine that. Don't imagine it, because nobody wants to imagine that, actually. I also, if you want to skip this scene, then please do, but from the news outlets and the people who have heard the information, I've been watching a lot on this, like I said, I heard that he tried to basically sever heads. So you can imagine his training handbook told him where to stab people, and apparently with his first victim he was almost successful, which I think was BB King. With his second one, I believe he was well into being successful on that mission, which is just fucking disgusting. And yeah, just horrific. I believe the third child, Alice De Silva, she was 9 years old. I think she was the little girl that had managed to get out, and I believe she had like 6 or 8 stab wounds. She was the one who managed to get out to the car, but sadly she passed away later at hospital. The other 2 were declared dead at the scene. Now, Alice also had like a head injury, it said. So it's believed, and her heart did stop, but they did manage to get that back. So it's believed that because of all this and the blood loss and just due to lack of oxygen to her brain. Now, I'm just going to tell you some information on some of the other victims that is known. The girl that was actually pulled through the door suffered 32 stab wounds and she survived, which is just astounding and amazing, and I'm so happy that she did. A 9-year-old had stab wounds. Another girl who was 8, they were all taken to hospital. One of them suffered a single stab wound to the chest. The teacher Leanne, she was taken to hospital. She had 5 stab wounds, and one of them had pierced, I think, her vertebrae in her back, because which he was using was unbelievable. Lots of children needed blood transfusions. There were lots of stab wounds to the chest and shoulders. The guy that he stabbed as well, I believe he was in the building, heard all the commotion, went running down to try and help, found him stood over one of the girls' bodies with a knife covered in blood, and then he started to chase him, so he obviously legged it, and he got stabbed in the leg. I believe it was very close to his femoral artery. He would have probably died, happened that somebody else didn't intervene, and like I don't know entirely what happened there, but I think somebody else was there, and so they came in, and that saved him. It's absolutely heartbreaking. Like, to imagine what these children went through. I've seen somebody, the children have anonymity, the surviving children, because, you know, they're only kids at the end of the day, and so it's hard for people to get like victim impact statements from them, like via the media, obviously. But I did see that one father had said, when he was asked if his daughter wishes she never went, she said that she's glad that she went, because maybe what happened to her allowed him to not kill another child, basically. And just said how brave and stuff she was, which is just outstanding. What these children went through will haunt them for the rest of their lives. What these other people, parents, witnesses, the parents that lost their kids, you know, it's always said you should never ever have to bury your kid, and this horrible, disgusting thing went in and took their children away from them. And let me tell you, he was happy about it. When they got him into custody, he was reveling in it, saying that he's glad that they're dead. It's great that they're dead. When he was told that the youngest victim that died was 6 years old, he laughed about it and loved the fact that she was so young. Dude, what the hell? Why? Like, why does anybody ever think that it's great to go and target children? 6, 7, 9? I mean, why? And then when he was all out in the media, they portrayed him, they put up this photo of him, which was when he was about 13 years old, in like a Doctor Who advert or something like that. Or a Children in Need Doctor Who thing, I think it was. Saying that he was this quiet little church choir boy or something. And they had this photo of him when he was about 13, which shows him as this innocent thing next to these children that he murdered as well. Some people thought that he was one of the victims because he looked like a similar age to one, which he wasn't. He was like, I don't know whether the picture's from 11 or 13, but at this point he was 17, almost 18, and obviously there are laws with regards to children's identity, etc. But when he turned 18, fair game, you know, surely they could have done an updated picture, but they never did. They still ran with this innocent one. It was only like, I don't know officially when it came out, but what his mugshot came out, and this is what he actually looks like. So yeah, it's totally different. It's thought that there was some sort of media thing where they just didn't have this update photo, didn't really report the facts. People have said that the police and the government were trying to hide things. There's a lot of mention with regards to whether this was an act of terror or not. According to the law, in the law's eyes, it's not, because, which I don't really understand. So, if it's a gun involved or a bomb involved, then it's an attack of terror. If none of those two are involved, and the person doing so does not claim that it is an attack of terror, then it's not. And apparently there's no sort of reasoning behind you know, it being a terror attack. He didn't give a motive, literally didn't even speak. He was arraigned to court to put his plea in, didn't give one. He don't give a shit. He genuinely does not give a shit. There's no remorse, there's no nothing with this guy. And it's just absolutely disgusting. Now, of course, the police said that they weren't holding anything back, but people just don't believe them. People don't think the government have done enough. People don't think Prevent and the police have done enough to stop things like this happening. It sparked a massive debate as to whether the death penalty should come back in cases like this, where there is literally no doubt that this person is guilty. He was caught in the act. He was stood over the bodies. I believe when the police came in, he was literally stood over one of the bodies covered in blood. They've got video footage of him. Undoubtedly, without any doubt whatsoever, which is what I've just said, never mind. He did it. He then admitted to it. He laughed about it. He was happy that he did it. He's happy that he's slaughtered these children. And so people are questioning as to whether in cases such as those that the death penalty should be on the table. Now, I don't know what's worse. Like, he's gonna go to prison, right? And he has now. First, he didn't say anything, so he got a non-guilty plea immediately because he didn't say anything. Then, when actually the trial started to begin, he for the very first time spoke up and pled guilty to all 16 charges that we was charged with. And therefore, that negates the trial because he's now pled guilty. Then he claimed that he was ill or something to get out there, very conveniently timed with the witness impact statements, I believe. So he was out there for them. He didn't have to listen to them, which is also very annoying. So basically him admitting guilt as well and then not being a trial, it's good, I suppose, in the way of the families don't have to suffer through all the details coming out and all that horrific thing. But that is also a thing, all the details will not fully come out, and I don't know whether we will ever know about them because of this. And yeah, it's just horrific. Going back to the death penalty question, people have asked, a lot of people feel strongly about it. They say that, it definitely should be imposed in situations like this. Other people have said, you're no worse than the murderer if you put them to death, which, I don't really believe that, to be honest. If you, for example, gave him the lethal injection, you're just as bad as him, who literally butchered children and basically tried to take off their... You're no worse than him. What a load of horseshit. Seriously. Don't talk absolute crap. So, obviously, people don't want people like this in jail. They're taxpayers' money. He is, when he committed this, was under the age of 18, so he would not get a full life tariff. So, there is potential that, after all these years served in, that he could be on the streets again. Who knows what's going to happen in 50 odd years? Whether the parole board think that he's done enough to let him back out, I don't know. But is it worse to be put to death and to no longer be on this planet? Or is it worse to suffer in jail for all of your life? I really don't know on that one, to be honest. Because once you're dead, you're gone, and that's it. Whereas he now has to live in jail forever. He was sentenced and he got 52 years, which is the second longest sentence, just behind the brother, I think the brother, or an accomplice of the MAN arena attack. He has the longest sentence ever given, so he's literally just behind him. Like I said, he's 18 now, so that is the minimum term that he will serve. So that would make him, what, 70? I believe. Before he's even able to go before a parole board to see whether he is safe to go back into society. But even at the age of 70, I don't think he should get that. I really don't. He was in the news again the other day because I literally read it, saying that he had been attacked. There was this audio file going out saying that he'd been attacked in his cell and people had ganged up on him and kicked the crap out of him, which, go ahead, please do. Please, I hope that every day he's in jail he gets kicked the shit out of, because that's That's the very least he deserves. But apparently that has been debugged, and that is not actually true. He is still in a custody, like I don't know exactly the details, but you know, like, not in the main prison yet. He's in like a separate prison or something, in like a custody, because they are afraid of what other people would do to him, basically. And no wonder, because people who are already incarcerated don't like people that mess with kids. They don't like children killers. They don't like anything else. It's just, no wonder. I don't blame them either. What I failed to mention as well, after this, people were so angry after he was arrested and all the news came out. It incited riots and protests and things, and all of the police and the Prime Minister, people literally got arrested over it. If you mentioned that this was to do with a terror attack or something like that, you were a part of the problem, apparently. You were accused of being far right and totally part of the problem. Now, apparently some were. I haven't seen any of these tweets, but some were inciting racism, which nobody should do. And like I said, I haven't read them myself, but there were some people that I've seen that literally just shared a tweet and said, is this part of a terror attack or not? And that's all they said on it, and they were arrested and spent some time in jail. So lots of people got time in jail for all this, which is time you never get back. I'd never imagine just reposting something that somebody's already posted and just asking a question about it would get you jail time, but apparently it did. And I'm not condoning any of the protests and the sort of craziness that came with all of that, but surely people should be able to retweet something asking a question about it without getting arrested. I don't know. Everyone was accused of like riling it up online and making the protest worse and things like that. So yeah, it was nuts. It was chaos. But no wonder. This guy is a complete piece of crap. He does not deserve to be here. He does not deserve to be able to do what he did. Apparently as well, I forgot to mention, when they were looking into him and searching his stuff, they found a ricin, which is some poison that has no cure. He was trying to make it. He had a handbook of how to make it, and they found some pulp, which, after it had been slightly refined, could kill up to 1,000 people, apparently. So, yeah, he was in the process of trying to refine that as well. There was no evidence that he'd done it recently, but, you know, he'd started it, and he was not far off. So, there you go. This is the kind of guy that we're talking about. When they sentenced him, I watched that, the judge doing it all, and he said that obviously he gave him some leniency for his age because he had to. He couldn't give him a whole, excuse me, a whole life tariff because he's underage, and the law doesn't allow you to do that, which is just annoying. He took into all the factors of him showing no remorse and all this lot, and anyway, he's in jail for 52 years. I would like to know your guys' opinion on all of this. Do you believe that cases such as this should bring back, like, the death penalty? This case just made me so mad. The fact that those little girls, the last thing that they saw was absolute terror, and his fucking face looking like this, I just can't imagine. And just the families, my heart breaks for them. Absolutely breaks for them. Their little girls went to a friggin' Taylor Swift themed dance class and were making bracelets when a monster came in and just changed everyone's lives forever. So yeah, I just really wanted to get this case out there and get all the information that I have managed to find and research, because he's just disgusting, and I hope he rots in hell forever. I hope prison treats him very unkindly, because kindness is not a thing he ever deserves. People are getting so mad about the death penalty and how he should be killed, and, well, not killed, but put to death. But, I mean, again, if he gets beaten the crap out of in prison all for the rest of his days, I'm quite happy with that, because that is more than he deserves. Not more than he deserves. Less than he deserves? You know what I mean. Anyway, I've got to end it here, because I've been rambling for a long time. just, man, this case. If I've missed out any information, please put it in the comments below. I really have tried to get everything. I've been watching so much on this, following the trial and just everything, the impact statements. Honestly, I think I've depressed myself doing this case. Genuinely, because I've felt like trash today. And all I've been doing is researching this case. And I really do think that that is the reason why. And no wonder, because just what happened is so traumatic. Also, that's what I meant to ask as well. Do you guys think it is an act of terror or not? In the eyes of the law, apparently it cannot be classed as that, but I think that's a load of crap. He literally was known to think that mass genocide of white people was a good thing. And he hit Western civilization really hard where it hurts, targeting children. You were just having fun and enjoying the life, which is all that your kids should do. Can you imagine how terrified everyone will be now to even let their children do anything like that ever again? It's just awful. Anyway, I'm gonna go. I've had enough of the heartbreak of this one. Subscribe if you want to, and if not, then I guess don't do it. For those who follow, I will see you in the next video. Bye.